folks. No phone calls from Al Sharpton yet, so I guess he accepted his firing without any without any contention whatsoever. All right, we're joined right now, ladies and gentlemen, by our good friend, senior editor of the Washington Free Beacon, Bill Gertz. Hello, Bill.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. Good to talk to you as always. Before we get to what I wanted to talk about with you, your fine piece yesterday, which is very troubling but not surprising. That seems to be what you got to say whenever you talk about anything this administration's doing, especially when it comes to foreign policy. But Iran is at it again. They're blaming Israel. They're blaming the Zionists for there was an attack today at the Iranian embassy in Beirut, and it killed 23 people.
Yeah, this actually there's an al-Qaeda group that is claiming responsibility for it, claiming that it was carried out in retaliation for Iran's support of the Assad regime in Syria. So that's kind of an interesting twist. Yeah, I saw that they were trying to blame the Israelis, and I thought, there's no way.
Yeah, no, and it's you have it prominently featured on at Washington Free Beacon, and I was wondering, it's just so insane. What's going on now? I mean, this Iranian regime has shown no signs of backing off. Hezbollah's in Syria. They're a puppet of Iran. Iran has their bloody hands in on everything, and we're about to cut a deal with them.
Reminds me of Munich in 1939, 38, 9. Where's the discussion in the negotiations with Iran on efforts to stop Iranian support for international terrorism, specifically support for Hezbollah? Where's the demand that Iran stop shipping weapons to the Taliban in Afghanistan that are being used to kill U.S. and NATO troops? This is just rank appeasement.
Rank appeasement. You're absolutely right. Rank appeasement. It's not even. It doesn't even look good. You can't even sugarcoat it. It just sticks out like a sore thumb, and you'd have to be basically brain dead not to know, what's going on here. But let's move on to your piece yesterday.
Sure.
And here we are, again, the U.S. military preparing to conduct military and special ops training for Libya's military, and the training will risk including, of course, Islamic terrorists among the trainees, and Al-Qaeda and the rest of them. And here we are again. We're fighting alongside of them in violation of U.S. law in Syria. Now we're going to train them in Libya. What the heck is going on in this country?
Unbelievable. This was disclosed by Admiral Bill McRaven, the hero of the Abbottabad bin Laden raid, who is now the commander of the U.S. Special Operations Command. I was at a conference out at the Reagan Library on Saturday, and he was asked by a questioner, how do you deal with the fact that you might be training some bad guys? And he disclosed, well, the Libyans had asked us to do this, and yes, there are risks involved. He said there's no way to make sure, but they're going to very carefully vet the people involved. And yeah, like you said, it's going to include not just conventional training for between 5,000 and 7,000 Libyans who will be trained in Bulgaria, the Pentagon announced yesterday, but also special operations training, which is some of our most sensitive military techniques. And certainly we wouldn't want people linked to terrorists or who could use those techniques against us to be taught those things. So this is certainly something that I hope Congress will take a look at. There are restrictions on what kind of people can be trained militarily.
Absolutely. And you know what this smacks of to me? I mean, if you follow the dots, there were all kinds of reports. I don't know if they're true because the administration won't make anybody available to Congress. But, that there was a weapons transfer going on in Libya, going to the Syrian rebels. And now you have what's been happening. We've been training people in Libya, and the ones we're going to train, many of them, are going to wind up fighting, guess where, in Syria for the rebels. So you're kind of seeing the same thing happening here, but this time with bodies instead of weapons.
Yeah, Libya has essentially spiraled downward since Gaddafi's ouster in 2011, and it is now becoming a safe haven for al-Qaeda. There are militias all over the place. They've been having running gun battles in the capital of Tripoli between competing militias. The government is basically powerless to do anything, so they're looking at some way to try to. This is, again, nation building, and it's probably something that the military is not going to be able to do effectively.
And we're talking to Bill Gertz. He is national security writer for the Washington Times, and also he is the senior editor at the Washington Free Beacon here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Another story on your site today, and that involves the fact that the Israelis have been holding since 2010 Samar Halami Abed al-Latif al-Bark, 39 years old citizen of Kuwait who has a specialty of being trained in biological warfare. This is huge that they have him behind bars.
Yeah, it's a big catch. It was disclosed in Israel. It looks like, I'm sure that he's providing a lot of detailed information about the types of biological weapons and other weapons of mass destruction that Al-Qaeda is have been known to have been pursuing. So, yeah, this is a big catch. Should provide some valuable intelligence.
Yeah, and he is described as an Al-Qaeda operative with extensive knowledge of unconventional warfare, especially biological warfare. And they say, because his lawyer's making a petition, they say releasing him at this time would constitute a point of no return in regards to the development of a substantial world jihad infrastructure in the area. Now, of course, if he were released, and he is Palestinian, and he went back to the Palestinian territories like those bloody-handed thugs that Israel made a mistake, in my view, in releasing, they would be treated just like those bloody-handed thugs. They'd be given hundreds of thousands of dollars by the Palestinian Authority. They'd be promoted militarily, and they'd live a life of luxury for the rest of their lives.
Right, and that raises the question of what was he heading into Israel. He was arrested back in July of 2010, and so he probably was planning some type of attack, perhaps even a biological attack in that part of the world.
Yes, sir. All right, Bill, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Gertz, ladies and gentlemen, senior editor, Washington Free Beacon, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, yesterday we told you about Martin Bashir and the horrific things he said about Sarah Palin last Friday. Well, yesterday, 3 full days later, he, quote-unquote, apologized. There's been not a word from his company, from his station, from his organization. We'll talk about it. We'll let you hear what he had to say in the apology. And Ann Coulter made news right here on this show, as Ted Cruz did yesterday. We'll talk about all of that on the Steve Malzberg Show. You know where it is. You know it. You love it. Right here. Newsmax TV and radio.